black screen, the sound of waves crashing against rocks, distant seagulls, a faint, eerie wind whistle. Suddenly, crash! A suitcase washes up on the shore. The tide pulls it halfway back before a fisherman, cautiously approaching, pulls it onto the sand. His eyes widen in shock. Narration, VO. When you lose someone, you're never prepared for what's left behind. But when you find something you weren't supposed to, you can never forget. Close-up of the suitcase as it's open. A pair of small shoes, a photo of 2 smiling twin girls, and then human remains. ST1. The Search. Present-day scene. Cuts to a dimly lit living room. The camera slowly pans across scattered missing persons flyers. The faces of 2 twin girls smile out from every corner. The room is still. Everything frozen in time. Narration, VO. Rachel Marin sat there, in the room where the world stopped turning. 10 months. 10 months without answers. We see Rachel sitting alone, rubbing her tired eyes, surrounded by police reports and sympathy cards she couldn't bring herself to open. The camera lingers on her exhausted face as she reaches for a sympathy card. The phone rings. Rachel's hand trembles as she answers. Detective Mace Alvarez, VO. Rachel, I've just received some disturbing information. A fisherman found a suitcase on Ocrayoke Island, North Carolina. It contains remains we believe might belong to your daughters. Rachel's face turns pale. The camera zooms in on her clenched fists as she listens, her breathing shallow. Rachel, VO, shaky. What? What do you mean? Remains? The detective's voice is calm, but there's a hint of urgency beneath it. Detective Mace Alvarez, VO. We need you to come to North Carolina. There are personal items in the suitcase. You need to identify them. We'll be waiting for you. Axt 2. Flashback to the cruise. 10 months earlier. The camera slowly fades into a sunlit memory. Rachel with her twin daughters on a cruise ship. Laughter. A peaceful family moment. They're sitting at a small restaurant on the ship, eating lunch. Rachel checks her phone. Rachel, VO. It was supposed to be the perfect trip, one I worked so hard to afford, a memory to last forever. She leaves her daughters for just 5 minutes to take an important call outside the restaurant. Her gaze lingers on her girls, laughing, playing with their food. Cut to. When Rachel returns, the restaurant is quiet. The girls are gone. The camera spins as panic floods Rachel's face. Her frantic voice calls out their names. Rachel yelling, Millie! Anna! The ship's staff rushes in, confusion spreading. The camera follows Rachel as she runs down endless hallways of the massive ship, calling out in desperation. The lights flicker as her frantic search intensifies. Act 3. The investigation, present. Back in Rachel's present-day home, she quickly packs a small bag. Her hands are shaking as she puts a few clothes into her overnight bag. Memories of the cruise flash through her mind, the search, the security footage, the endless questions. Rachel, VO. The search lasted for days, and then weeks. There were no answers, no sign of my girls. The camera zooms in on her hand as she closes the bag and zips it up. She takes one last look at the sympathy cards scattered on the table. A soft knock at the door breaks her thoughts. Act 4. The reveal. North Carolina, present. Rachel arrives at the forensic lab in North Carolina. The room feels sterile, cold. The suitcase is laid out on the table, surrounded by law enforcement officers. Mace Alvarez stands nearby, his face tense. Rachel approaches the table, her breath hitching. She gazes at the suitcase, afraid to look inside, but she knows she must. The camera zooms in on Rachel's face, her eyes welling up with tears. The silence is broken by the soft click of the suitcase being unzipped. Rachel, VO. I thought if I saw them again, I would find peace. But peace is a lie. You don't ever find peace in these kinds of places. Inside the suitcase, pieces of clothing, a pair of small shoes, and a photo of her twin daughters smiling. The same photo she had taken just days before they vanished. The camera lingers on the faces of the girls. Act 5. The final piece of the puzzle is Rachel stares. The camera slowly pans over the suitcase's contents. The remains are small, fragile, too young to be hers, but they are. The truth is finally dawning on her. Detective Alvarez steps forward, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. Detective Mace Alvarez. Rachel. I'm so sorry. We're still trying to identify the remains, but it's clear now that they were on that ship. Something happened, something we still don't understand. Rachel, voice breaking. But what? What does it mean? Why didn't they come home? The camera cuts to an exterior shot of the forensic lab. The waves crash against the shore in the distance. The sound of the sea is constant, relentless. Ending scene. The unspoken truce. Rachel leaves the forensic lab. As she steps outside, the camera pulls back, showing her walking slowly down the empty street, suitcase in hand. The camera continues to pull back, revealing the vast ocean stretching beyond, endless and unknowable. Narration, VO. Some questions have no answers. Some losses you never recover from. But in the end, we must keep moving, keep searching, because the truth will always find its way home. The screen fades to black. Rachel enters the forensic lab, her eyes darting nervously across the room. The suitcase rests on a sterile table in front of her. Detective Alvarez stands beside her, his expression unreadable. Detective Mace Alvarez, low solemn. Rachel, you don't have to do this, but we need you to identify the personal items. Your daughters, they could be in that suitcase. Rachel nods, but she hesitates. The camera zooms in on her shaky hands as she slowly unzips the suitcase. Rachel, VO, shaky. What if I see them? What if I know for sure? Am I ready to lose them again forever? The suitcase opens. A small pair of shoes, a stuffed animal, and a photo of her daughters, smiling on their last day on the ship. But there are also remnants, fragments too small, too delicate. The camera lingers on the items, pausing as Rachel stares in disbelief. Voice over Rachel's voice. Rachel VO. A suitcase washed up on a beach. I never thought this day would come. The last 10 months of my life have been a blur of false hope, dead ends, and empty nights. And now, this remains. Something tells me this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something much darker. Act 5. The Memories. Extended flashback. The scene transitions into a warm, golden flashback. Rachel and her daughters laugh together on the cruise, a moment frozen in time. The sun shines brightly, and the sound of waves fills the background. Rachel recalls the peaceful day they spent before everything changed. Rachel, VO. That afternoon, it was perfect, just us, my girls, the sea breeze, the promise of a perfect vacation. But that promise was shattered the moment I stepped away from them for 5 minutes. Cut to Rachel walking away from the restaurant, phone to her ear. She glances back at her daughters who are playing with their food. The music shifts from joyful to tense as she steps outside for the call. Rachel, VO. It was just 5 minutes. I told myself it wouldn't matter. 5 minutes. But when I came back, they were gone. The sound of a muffled phone conversation, then her frantic running back into the restaurant. The staff is confused, the dining area quiet. Act 6. The ship-wide search intensified. The camera shakes as we follow Rachel's desperate sprint down the endless hallways of the ship. The ship's loudspeaker announces the search for the girls. The music heightens in intensity as Rachel runs to different decks, frantically calling out their names. Rachel, shouting, breathless. "Millie! Anna! Where are you?" The camera focuses on the worried faces of crew members, passengers whispering in the background. The lights flicker above her as the tension grows. Cut 2. The large swimming pool area. An empty, silent void. No sign of the twins. Act 7. The investigation deepens. Cut back to the present. Detective Alvarez and Rachel stand in the lab looking at the suitcase. The air is heavy with unspoken words. Detective Mace Alvarez, solemnly. "We've run every test we can. The remains, they're too small, too young to belong to anyone but your daughters." Rachel, breaking down. "I don't know how much more I can take, but I have to know. I need the truth." The camera zooms in on Rachel's face as tears slip down her cheeks, the weight of the moment sinking in. Outside, the storm rages, the waves, crashing violently against the shore. Voice over, Rachel's voice. Rachel, VO. Every parent knows the unbearable weight of fear, but no one tells you that when it gets heavy enough, you'll stop asking what happened and start asking, how do I survive this? Because the world is shattered and there's no going back. You learn to live in the cracks. Act 8. The final piece. Unraveling the truth. Rachel is led into another room. The remains are placed on a table, covered. Detective Alvarez steps aside, letting her approach. Her hands are trembling as she pulls back the cloth. In slow motion, she gasps. The fragments are unmistakable. A piece of clothing, a scrap of hair ribbon, a drawing from Millie that she had kept as a keepsake. Rachel, whispering to herself, it's really them, but why? Why now? Act 9. The shocking revelation. Twist. The camera shifts to outside the forensic lab, the wind howling. Rachel steps out into the night air looking lost. Detective Alvarez approaches her, holding something in his hand, a piece of paper. Detective Mace. Alvarez, carefully. Rachel, there's something else. Something we didn't expect. The suitcase wasn't found by just anyone. The fisherman who discovered it, he's been connected to several cold cases over the years. I think the twins weren't just taken. I think they were kept. Rachel, frozen, eyes wide. Kept? What do you mean? The camera zooms out slowly as Rachel stands still, the weight of the words hanging in the air. Rachel, VO, voice breaking. If my girls were kept, then what happened to them in those months? Who took them, and why did they keep them? Ending scene. The search continues. Rachel stares out into the night. The sound of waves crashing echoes in the distance. The camera slowly zooms out, revealing the vast, dark ocean stretching endlessly beyond. Narration VO. The sea hides many things. Secrets, disappearances, memories we try to forget. But no matter how deep the waters, the truth has a way of rising to the surface. And when it does, nothing is ever the same again. The screen slowly fades to black, leaving the audience with a lingering sense of dread and mystery. It's to black. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. We'd been planning this cruise for months. The girls, they'd been dreaming about it for weeks. To them, it was the grandest adventure. To me, it was supposed to be a brief escape from the grind of life, a chance to give them something to remember. Cut to flashback, Rachel and her twin daughters, Millie and Anna, excitedly boarding the cruise ship. The sun is bright, and the ocean stretches far out into the distance. Rachel laughs with them as they run toward the ship, their hands in hers. Rachel, VO. They were so full of energy, full of excitement, the kind of innocence that only children can possess. I thought, nothing could ruin this day. Cut to the family having lunch in the restaurant on board. The girls are laughing as they play with their food, sharing stories of what they hope to do. The camera zooms in on Rachel's face as she listens with a smile, her gaze moving affectionately between them. Rachel, VO. And then the call came. 5 minutes? 5 minutes away? That's all I needed. But when I came back, they were gone. Flashback to Rachel stepping away from the table to answer her phone outside. The bright midday. Sun contrasts the growing tension. The camera cuts back and forth, showing the girls alone at the table, laughing and playing. Then nothing. Rachel, VO. 5 minutes, and the world I knew came crashing down. I never should have left them. Act 2. The search begins. Extended voice-over. Rachel's voice. Rachel, VO. When I returned, they were gone. No sign, no trace. The staff had seen them leave the restaurant, but they had no idea where they went. Panic set in immediately. Cut to a frantic search through the cruise ship. Rachel is running down the hallways, her breaths heavy and panicked. The staff members are speaking into radios. The crew launches a search. We see Rachel's face, desperate and confused. The ship seems enormous, isolating. Rachel, VO. I went to the crew begging for help, but they weren't moving fast enough. The ship, it seemed too big to search like a labyrinth. It was almost as if they were swallowed by the ocean. Cut to Rachel moving down a hallway with her phone to her ear. The camera shifts to a close-up of her face, her eyes wide with fear. Rachel, VO. In those first few hours, all I could think was that someone must have taken them. I didn't want to think about the possibility of them going overboard, but no one could tell me anything. The clock was ticking, and the hope that I'd find them alive was slipping away. Act 3. The expansion of the search. Extended. Cut to the ship docked at its next port. The Coast Guard arrives, FBI agents start an official investigation. A montage of searching ensues. The camera zooms out as authorities comb through every inch of the ship. Crew members search cabins. Passengers give statements, yet the twins are nowhere. Voice over. Detective Alvarez. Detective Mace. Alvarez calmly. Rachel, the evidence doesn't suggest they went overboard. No sign of struggle, no trace of them leaving the ship. We need to dig deeper. Rachel, panicking. What do you mean dig deeper? They vanished. They were right here, on this ship. The camera pans to a crew member nervously watching the scene. Rachel's face is drenched in sweat, tears rolling down as she confronts the officer. The police officers look at one another in silence. Act 4. The investigation widens. New voiceover. Rachel's voice. Rachel, VO, distant. I never could have imagined how deep the rabbit hole would go. The investigation stretched on months, passed, and yet no answers. No one was talking, no new leads, no signs, just more dead ends. Cut to Rachel's home, months later. The walls are lined with missing persons posters, each one with the smiling faces of her daughters. The phone rings in the background, but Rachel doesn't answer. The camera focuses on her face, exhausted and haunted. Her fingers trace over a photograph of Millie and Anna. Rachel, VO, despondent. And then a suitcase. 10 months later, a suitcase washed up on the shore. Cut to Detective Alvarez talking to Rachel on the phone, the urgency in his voice stark against the quiet night. Detective Mace, Alvarez, low, concerned. Rachel, you need to come with me. We found something. It's not good. Act 5. The Shocking Discovery, Extended. Cut to the lab in North Carolina. The suitcase is laid out on a metal table, sealed for evidence. Detective Alvarez gestures for Rachel to step forward. Rachel looks hesitant, frozen in place as she stares at the suitcase. Rachel, VO. I couldn't breathe. Every step closer felt like an eternity. I didn't want to see what I knew would be inside, but I had to. For the girls. For myself. Slow motion as Rachel's hand touches the zipper of the suitcase. She hesitates but pulls it open. Rachel, VO, whispering. I wasn't ready. How could I be? Inside, a stuffed animal, the girls' drawings and other personal items float in a small sea of water that had seeped into the suitcase over the months. The camera lingers on these items, focusing on the stuffed toy, a piece of jewelry, a fragment of clothing. Act 6. Pieces of the puzzle. Extended voice over. Detective Alvarez, Detective Mace, Alvarez, calm grave. There's something else, Rachel. We've traced the suitcase. It wasn't just found by anyone. The fisherman who discovered it. He's been connected to several other disappearances. This isn't random. Rachel, stunned, voice trembling. You mean to tell me that someone kept my daughters? That they're still out there? The camera zooms in on Alvarez's expression, which is unreadable as the room falls into silence. Voice over. Rachel's voice. Rachel, VO. All this time, I thought they were gone. And now, after 10 months, I realized something worse. My daughters weren't just lost. They were taken. And whoever took them, they're still out there, watching. Act 7. The truth behind the disappearance. New cut to flashbacks of earlier days. The sound of whispers between passengers on the ship. A woman looking away as Rachel passed her in the hall. A strange man who was seen near the children the last day they were seen. Small, seemingly insignificant moments come together. Voice over. Rachel's voice. Rachel, VO. It wasn't a random kidnapping. It wasn't an accident. I started thinking back to everything, every look, every person we met. What if someone knew about us? What if they knew about the girls, how much they meant to me? Key 8. The hunt for the kidnapper. Extended Detective Alvarez and Rachel worked tirelessly, uncovering connections between the fishermen and previous disappearances. Slowly, the puzzle pieces come together. The camera follows them as they investigate. Cold case files, track down potential witnesses, and piece together new information. Rachel, VO. Every clue led me closer to the truth, but the closer I got, the more I realized I wasn't just hunting for my daughters. I was hunting for a ghost. Someone who knew how to hide in plain sight. Cut to Rachel's growing paranoia. People watching her, messages that seem strange, anonymous tips that don't lead anywhere. Her life has turned into an endless game of cat and mouse. 9. The final revelation. Extended. Rachel and Alvarez discover the truth. Someone in the ship's crew was involved in the disappearance. The camera shakes with tension as they confront the suspect, who breaks down under pressure, revealing the truth. Rachel, VO, shaken. I always thought the worst thing was losing them. But finding out that someone planned this, that they watched me and my daughters every step, it's a kind of pain I never could have imagined. Ending scene. Hope. New. Rachel stands at the shore where the suitcase was found, the waves crashing against the rocks. She holds the small stuffed animal from the suitcase, her hand shaking. Voice over. Rachel's voice. Rachel, VO, hopeful. The search isn't over, and no matter how dark the days get, I will never stop fighting for them. They're not gone. They're still out there. The camera zooms out slowly, the ocean stretching beyond her filled with both hope and uncertainty. The scene fades to black,